Welcome back. I'm Tedward and welcome to a frigid day here in New England. It's below 20 degrees. It snowed the other night and unfortunately I was unable to get out and have fun and slide the GX around because, boy, I got a terrible cold and had a 102-degree fever. So it was not ideal for me to be out driving. But today I'm suffering the consequences of being sick during a snowstorm because I had to clean off the GX. And, you know, of course, you want to get as much off of the car as possible because you don't want to be flinging ice and snow into traffic, but also for your own sanity, get the snow and stuff off the wheels because this, believe it or not, will unbalance the heck out of your tires because you're putting a weight on the wheel essentially, and you'll go insane. Now, if this does happen to you, you can still mitigate it by using your brakes because if you warm those wheels up, you'll melt the snow and ice. Just a little trick, but you know, only if you have to. Right now I'm trying not to destroy my windshield wipers because, let's see, there we go. There we go. They were frozen to the windscreen and now we're good. We can get that off. But anyway, you know, it's frigid. There's only so much you can get off of a freezing car. I think I did a pretty darn good job and hopefully we don't run into any trouble. Now, something that we've been discussing about these Toyota products is rust mitigation because this is a body-on-frame Lexus. It's basically a 4Runner with a little bit of beefiness to it and some luxury, but they rust. We saw my brother-in-law's 4Runner when I washed it the other day around Christmas, and it was mighty brown. In fact, I was like, it was a wake-up call. It really was. It was like, wow, this is what can happen to the vehicle. I need to do something about it. So what I did was I went out and I got some PB Blaster Surface Shield because that's what I've heard is the new, I guess, gold standard for these rust prevention things. A lot of times people use wool wax or fluid film. Fluid film was like the standard, but it's very thin and I've just heard that it kind of can, and I'm not, I don't, oh wow, it's 14 degrees. It's even colder than I thought. The fluid film can essentially wash away with some light agitation or water. So that's not great. You want this to last. You want this to be part of your vehicle for a while. And that PB Blaster Surface Shield, it goes on super easy. It doesn't smell terrible. It smells a little like cedar. It seems to be thick enough that it just sits on the surface without, you know, melting off. And I was able to get from my friend Justin at Bond Group. He had one of these tubes with an omnidirectional nozzle at the end. So it's like 2.5, 3 feet long, and you can snake it into the frame, spray and pull, and basically you're coating the inside of the frame. So I feel like I've done my part now to mitigate the rust, or at least slow it down on my Lexus. But otherwise, the GX now has 14,600 miles on it, and it's been running like a champ, as it should. I mean, this isn't like, you know, we're not at the high mileage level yet. And it's funny, every time I do updates on cars, people are like, let me know what happens at 400,000 miles. Well, like, that's the thing. I mean, if we're talking about ownership experience, you've got to kind of go along with it and see how things go over time. And yeah, I would love to be able to give you a 400,000 mile update, but I'm not going to buy a car and wait 7, 8, 9 years before I talk about it. That's literally insane. As you can see, the roads are just frigid, they're salty, they're white. This is just the kind of stuff you don't want to have a rust-prone Toyota in as a Tacoma goes by, which likely has had its frame replaced. Oh my goodness. But what I learned the other day about the GX is its stopping distance in the snow is pretty dismal. These tires, the Bridgestone Duelers, they're fine. They're fine tires. They do a good job of being kind of a great all-arounder. But luckily, I'm actually going to be driving their new Dueler Ascent in Colorado pretty soon, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the stopping distances look like on that tire, because if that's the case, if that's going to be something that I can use as an all-rounder and it's better in the snow, especially with stopping distances, then I'm sold. Like, that's something I will put on the car immediately, because stopping distances is not something you want to mess around with. And I've always been one of those people who had dedicated snow tires. I've got a set of Blizzak WS90s on my Honda Civic Type R, which I no longer need to drive in the snow. But my M3 had snow tires, my 350Z had snow tires. This is something that I very often do because it just makes driving safer and more pleasurable. Like nothing's like crummier than hitting the brakes and not stopping. That's a very bad feeling. And obviously people think more of snow tires as like, oh, I can get up my driveway if there's a hill when it snows. Like I'm thinking, yeah, that's great, but I also would like to not smash into the row of cars that I'm only approaching at 10 or 15 miles an hour with what appears to be reasonable distance, and then suddenly that distance is like 25% of what I needed. That's not good. I always encourage people to learn what their cars are capable of in a parking lot. Like figure out what you can actually do before you jump out into the world. But anyway, I digress. The GX is like a sanctuary in the winter because it's quiet, it's well insulated. When you have super frigid temperatures, like, you know, the air is more dense, wind noise, road noise is louder. You're also stiffening up all of the components of your vehicle. So like if you have a relatively stiff car already, like my Honda Civic Type R, well, add 14 degree or 16 degree ambient temperatures to the mix, and now everything's stiffer and more miserable. So every time you hit a little bump, it's like, oof. Whereas with this, it's soft enough that I still feel insulated from the world, and I really enjoy that. It makes winter driving more pleasurable, and it makes daily driving more pleasurable. In addition to that, there are a lot of bad drivers out there, and there are, like I said, most people don't test the limits of their tires or their cars in the snow, and that means that you're more likely to get hit. And like, while I love this vehicle, it isn't my pride and joy. It's something that I enjoy keeping nice and tidy and clean, and I'm an obsessive person, so of course I'm gonna like lose sleep over the thought of like the frame rusting, so then I have to go and undercoat it. Great. However, if this gets hit in a car accident, it's just a pretty typical insurance claim. I don't think I'm gonna be like that heartbroken. There's a million of them out there. It's not a rare car. It wasn't hard for me to get, despite the challenges of just getting the right one. But there's others available, and it could always just be replaced with another vehicle. It doesn't even have to be another GX460. So for that matter, it's a great vehicle, but it's also slightly sacrificial. I just also wanted to drive something nice. And I had someone ask me the other day, why didn't you buy an LX? Well, the LX is like twice the money. I mean, I didn't want to spend $80,000 to $100,000 on my quote-unquote daily driver. This was already a bit of a stretch at around 55, 60 grand. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to treat myself to something nice. But not to mention, I'm alone. Like, I don't have I mean, I have a family. I'm not like alone. But like, I don't have a wife and kids or a husband or anything like that. So I don't need to bring anybody anywhere. It's just for me and my equipment and my own comfort. It's a little bit selfish for me to be driving an SUV, frankly, just because I don't need it. I guess I could have gotten away with something a little smaller, but I still wanted the opportunity to maybe like do some camping and outdoorsy stuff and like have the ground clearance to go places that I otherwise can't go in all my other cars, because my other cars are cars. So I wanted one SUV. And for that, I don't regret it. The one thing that is slightly regretful is just the fuel economy of this beast. It is, 19 miles per gallon or so on average. It's rough. It's a little rough. It's expensive to run. And I will likely, once the spring rolls around and the salt is off the roads, probably start transferring some of that daily duty to the Civic Type R, just because I would like to make my average consumption over the year a little better than 19. That would be preferable. And in the Civic, I can eke out around 30, so that puts me probably around 24-ish when we average out my economy for the year on the two daily drivers. Let's jump onto the highway here. Now, the one thing that I do miss about having like a sporty car is just that like I can't really chuck this thing into a corner. Sometimes I do because it's fun. It has KDSS, so it'll stiffen up the sway bars, and like it is entertaining to operate a large vehicle at like kind of silly speeds, but I just don't often do it. And I guess that's a good thing too, though, because I don't feel the need to speed. I don't feel like there's really any scenario in which and here comes all the stuff that I couldn't get off with the brush. Now it's all warming up. This is the fun stuff, and now I become the who's got stuff coming off the truck. But it really keeps me from speeding. I don't speed in the car because I just, there's no reason to. Why bother? I don't have to be anywhere that fast, and it's not necessarily safe or enjoyable to be driving this car at 90 miles an hour. Like 80 is probably where I kind of cap it out, and it usually is underestimating or overestimating my speed on the speedo. So if I set this to 70, that's at like 68, 69 on Waze, on the satellite. So, you know, that's where we're at. I think it probably just keeps my license and insurance in check, which is lovely. I think it's nice to have that, because when you're driving sports cars all the time, it is very easy to just get carried away and drive a little faster. Anyway, the other thing I had complained about in this vehicle was I always felt like I was correcting it to the left a little bit. And I had the dealer during an oil change, which I do at the dealer. Ooh, Hyundai flying up the left lane. Yeah, full send, baby. Okay, I don't know why that excited me. I had them check out the alignment because I'm like, hey, like, is this cool, or does it have KDSS lean? Which I didn't notice upon like a visual inspection, but hey, they know better than I do. They said, nope, KDSS in check and alignment all within spec. So what I found out was that I think I just needed to inflate, honestly, I think I just needed to inflate that front right tire like a touch, like a half a pound more. And it kind of just leveled itself out. And it's amazing how like such a subtle difference in tire pressure seemingly dialed out my regular need for left counter steer. Now, it still does it a little bit, and it does follow the crown of the road. So most of the time, this is just caused by a slight dip in the road, because the road is not flat, right? So if I go over to the left, it's going to be like this. If I go to the right, it's going to be like this. This is for drainage. And so you're just kind of trying to not fall off the hill while you're driving. Adding a tiny bit of pressure to that front right mostly solved the issue, which is great. But as far as ownership and enjoyment, I really enjoy this vehicle. I think it's a little old school. I think some people would get in this and say, oh, it feels 10 years old. Like, that's, I think, what I like about it, right? Like, my golden era of cars is that 2010 to 2017. I like that era of vehicles, and this kind of drives like that. There are better driving vehicles. Like, it drives like a truck, right? And I kind of enjoy that. I think there's like some pleasure to having something a little unique. It's the same reason why I think I prefer like a 997 GT3 over a 992 GT3. Yeah, the 992 is like technically superior, it's faster and all this stuff, but look at the element with these big old tires. That's kind of fun. I always dig wrong wheels. Like, I want to see that on like all terrains. But anyway, I find certain older vehicles just more pleasurable as a driver than newer vehicles. And to me, this is an example of that, where I would rather be driving like the slightly older feeling vehicle than get into like a new X5 or something and be like, wow, look what it can do around a corner. Like, I do not care. That was not ever the purpose of this vehicle for me. And it's just how I enjoy the vehicle. And it's just what I like in a driving experience. So for me, this has done great. And frankly, like the new ones, I'm kind of glad I didn't get swayed toward that, because they're not sorted yet. We're still seeing engine problems from what I can see on the interwebs. I mean, like, I don't know. These V6 twin turbos still do not yet seem like the Toyota reliability we were sold on over the last 25, 30 years. And the exterior of the cars are melting in certain cases, where apparently like the trim pieces in like low ambient temperatures, but just with direct sunlight, apparently these things are so thin and I guess incredibly heat absorbent. They must be very, very, very black. Like, there's trim pieces that seemingly are melting. Now, I don't know what's necessarily been proven, but I don't know. This is compelling against me, quote unquote, upgrading to the new version, or at least until these things have been sorted out. So the new GX, while probably lovely, it doesn't quite seem like it's for me, and all the arguments against these newer vehicles seemingly feel like I made the right decision in getting the last of the V8s, the last of like the tried and true trusted thing. So anyway, I'm going to go continue to stack miles on my GX and enjoy the ride. And it is fun when I have to bring friends in the vehicle, because it is nice to have like a big comfy mom mobile that sort of serves as the limo and has heated rear seats and all those good things. I feel like a responsible adult when I when I drive this thing. And it's also pretty surreptitious. Nobody nobody really knows it's me. Not that I'm like getting harassed by people. I'm not famous enough for that. But, you know, when I'm in the Honda, whether they know me or not, a lot of people do try to race you, or they want some attention or something. And like, that's fun occasionally. But when you're in this, like, it's very undercover. You might as well be in a silver Camry in 2011. It's just an ordinary looking thing, and nobody's the wiser. So anyway, that's going to do it for me in this Lexus GX update. I'm going to go try to increase this average fuel economy from 10.2 miles per gallon to about 18 or 19 on my way to Bond Group, where I got to go do some photos. I'm so thankful that I don't have a fever, but I am bummed out that I didn't get to go do any like massive winter driving in this, because we have gotten so few winter storms. I think everyone's like, well, why don't you go out and do all the drifting with like you did in the M3? I'm like, it don't snow like that no more. Like, it's very rare, and the window of opportunity to actually go out and have fun in the snow is so short. It's so limited because the snow lasts for such a short amount of time, and the snowplow crews get out there, salt, and plow very, very quickly, and all the fun is gone when the snow is gone. So that's the deal. So thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thanks for listening to a little update on my GX460 ownership. If you have any questions specifically about it, feel free to ask me in the comments. I just wanted to kind of take you on a quick update ride and let you know that I did in fact undercoat it, and the only reason I didn't film it was because I was anticipating I was going to go in and do like a little test spot, and then I just got carried away and did the whole thing, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I did it. Whoops. And I forgot to film it because I was just having a good time. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.